Vlad left the Titanic with the Rubaiyat. Vlad left the Titanic with the real necklace. Vlad left the Titanic with the Rubaiyat and the real necklace. The money garnered from the sale would finance the violent assassination of Archduke Ferdinand at Sarajevo in 1914. The World War followed. The necklace Georgia gave me was a fake. Charles had switched it without her knowing and had hidden the real diamond somewhere on board the ship. Vlad left the sinking ship without the Rubaiyat, nor did he have the real Lambeth diamonds. The necklace he took was the fake. Vlad never knew I had swapped it in Sasha's cabin. However, I traded the real necklace in order to leave the Titanic. I left the ship with the Rubaiyat. The Black Hand never got its funds, money intended to finance a wave of terrorism across the Balkans. One of the intended targets, the heir to the Austrian throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand. His murder might have started a war. We were lucky. We got peace instead. Though Zeitel took the painting, its plans proved useless to the Germans. In the month following the sinking, the War Office scrapped the proposed deployments in a cost-cutting measure. They were soon forgotten in a dusty Whitehall file. As for the painting, it went down with the ship. Fortunately, Shayla and the baby survived. As for the painting, it left with me. The plans proved useless. In the month following the sinking, the War Office scrapped the proposed deployments in a cost-cutting measure. But the canvas? As the only artifact saved from the Titanic, the painting became famous. Along with its creator, a rather excitable Austrian named Adolf Hitler, who makes a lucrative career to this day, peddling overpriced alpine vistas to the carriage trade. I never retrieved Willie's notebook. The Germans' support of the Russian revolutionaries continued. I left the ship with Willie's notebook. Eventually, it found its way to the Russians. The Tsar's secret police were grateful, and the names Stalin, Lenin, and Trotsky vanished from history. The communist revolution aborted. Following Germany's defeat in the Great War, the communists seized power in Berlin. They organized. They waited. Weakened by the Great Depression, the democracies gradually fell under communism's sway. Today, April 14th, 1942. Britain has joined the rest of Europe in a communist union, ruled from the German Politburo in Berlin. We are to work unceasingly to build a workers' paradise. From each according to his abilities, to each according to his needs. With no revolutions disrupting it, the Romanov dynasty continued to rule in Russia. When the Nazis attacked, an old and feeble Tsar proved no match for Hitler, and neither were we. In 1939, Nazi Germany conquered the Russian Empire before turning its fury against the West. Britain surrendered 3 days ago. Now we take our place behind Germany in a Europe ruled by hate and National Socialism. Meanwhile, the rest of Europe and America enjoyed a prosperous peace. What did we gain? Complacency. In 1927, Adolf Hitler toppled the Kaiser and channeled the power of German science and industry into weapons production. The democracies, lulled by decades of uninterrupted affluence, ignored him. The Germans have had a 6-year lead in the race to unlock the secrets of nuclear fission. War was avoided, but not bloodshed. In Russia, the communists overthrew the Tsar, exchanging one empire for another, though Lenin could not have seized power without Germany's support. The new Soviet Union proved no friend to the Kaiser, as the Soviet Union began a decade-long campaign to bring communism to Europe. In 1931, weakened by the Great Depression, the German Empire collapsed. With Berlin no longer a check against communist expansion, the communist tidal wave swept over Europe. Today, April 14th, 1942, it's Britain's turn. However, the Allies defeated Germany and imposed a humiliating peace. But not before the German military convinced a revolutionary Russia to leave the war. Eventually, Lenin replaced the feeble Russian Empire with a communist one. There were totalitarian stirrings in Germany as well. But with no strong man to lead them, parties like the Nazis never amounted to much. With Berlin no longer a check against communist expansion, the Soviet tidal wave swept over Europe. Today, April 14th, 1942, it's Britain's turn now. I didn't really realize it then, but that night 30 years ago was one of history's most crucial. Though the Titanic carried 1,500 to their death, a peaceful world would be their epitaph. Our mission was a success. With no wars or bloody revolutions to derail us, prosperity and progress has flowed into every corner of the globe, bringing humanity a security known only to the privileged few before the Titanic sailed. Today, on April 14th, 1942, I am leaving the service to retire in a world at peace. World War I ended in 1918, a victory for the Allies. Germany was ruined, Russia in revolution. Soon after, Lenin consolidated his power in Moscow. A decade later, Hitler became Führer, promising to avenge Germany's defeat. The rest of the story is depressingly familiar. Here we are, April 14th, 1942, fighting another war, a second world war. Those who disagree with the new order are to be liquidated. They hung Churchill yesterday. Now that the world war has begun, I wonder if the question is not whether Hitler will use his atomic weapons, but when. They say we've lost our chains, but it's our freedom that's vanished instead. And I keep wondering, was there something anyone could have done, something I could have done to stop it? If only the past could be changed. One can only imagine how different it could have been, would have been, if we had failed.